thank you for coming on the podcast.
No worries.
If you want to tell everybody listening, watching, you know, what's your name, who you are, and just a little bit about you, just so for the people listening, obviously I know you. But
Okay, my name's Eley. I'm from Port Talbot. I'm 30 years of age. I'm a veteran. I spent 10 years in the military. Now I'm an IT engineer for a company in Bridgend. Sort of my belief and my vision for the future, for me and for other people, is just to create a sense of like well-being and good mental health and good vibes for people who believe that there's something better for themselves. They want people to like start believing in themselves and start taking little steps forward to get to where they need to be.
And this is why me and you, this is where we essentially met, wasn't it? Because we met through Ideas and Beers, through the community online, I think. And we spoke a little bit about, you know, self-development and the things that we're both interested in, isn't it? And obviously we've been talking about sea dips and stuff like that. We'll come on to that in a bit now. With the starting off with the military stuff, then, so how long were you in the army for?
So I spent 10. I joined when I was 17. So that's 2007. So that's going back a bit now.
Yeah, it's gone back a bit. So how old are you now?
I'm 30.
30.
So I joined in 2007, fresh out of college. I thought, I seen the steelworks every day, I thought, oh, I don't really fancy that. I wanted something more, wanted to get a bit of travelling, and I felt like I needed some sort of regiment in my life. As I went through a phase, went in college, I was just like being reckless. I thought, oh, I need to join something which is going to instill some real some values in me. And when I joined the military, I received exactly what I wanted. So I got the leadership discipline, the integrity, the personal development sort of qualities that I was looking for in myself. I just built on that and I was a radio engineer in the military. So I spent 4 years as a radio engineer. I spent like 6 months initially in Afghanistan. So I was coaching and mentoring Afghan police and Afghan national military, which is really intense experience for like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
I was like I was one of the youngest coaches out there, to be fair, and I got thrown in the deep end. I remember my first day off Bastion. I got chucked out of a helicopter in the dark, and I was like picked up by this guy on the quad. I jumped in the back of the quad. I was like, oh, this reminds me. Joe Ross Kemp.
Yeah.
No, I was watching Ross Kemp in Afghanistan like back to back, thinking, how can I prepare for this? Yeah. And I was like, there's no manual to like give you the experience. Like anyone can tell you what it's like, but when you watch like a journalist, you get some sort of vibe what it's like. Yeah. And when I went up there, I was like just thinking of, oh my god, I've been watching this on TV and now I'm here. And I was based in this mud hut for like 3-4 months. I had my own room, and the first night I remember I just drifted off to sleep. I was like, oh, bang, and I was thinking, something startled me, and I was thinking, oh, what is that? I thought, do you only just something bumped you in your sleep? But you don't think it's anything external, you just think it's maybe you've dropped off. Yeah. All of a sudden, I heard all about going, we get attacked. I was like, oh, no way. So that's my first night. I just jumped out of my bed. I was like trying to undo my mozzie net. I was like panicking. I was like, all right, so this is my first day outside of the wire, as they call it. And I was like, welcome to Afghanistan. No, that was like a good sort of
introduction to
Afghanistan. So we got attacked on my first day, but it was a really good tour, you know, really good. It taught me a lot about myself, because during that tour, like a lot of the Afghan soldiers and Afghan police that we were mentoring were shooting the British soldiers we worked with. So I thought, what I did see was a lot of resentment to them from British soldiers. I didn't agree with it, so I thought the only way really to like ensure... Oh. No. My earpiece is going off. My earpiece is going off there. I thought the only way really to ensure my survival with these guys is to be like true to them basically, and coach them as best as I can. And like to think on that level as like an 18-year-old, I thought I'm mature for my years, because I was understanding their emotional state and trying to understand that the way I am perceived to them could be threatening, if I'm resenting them as an army for stuff that their peers have done or their colleagues have done, but which is mostly done under pressure from the Taliban. So like when they got your family basically. So they kidnap people's families. They say, oh, if you don't do this on base, then you're gonna kill all your family. So like, it's a bit of a situation, do you mean? So I thought, oh, you can't. I
can't tar everyone with the same brush.
Exactly, and I thought my survival technique when I was living with these guys, like they lived on one side of it, so I lived on the other. It was like to be the best version of myself to them.
Do you know what? I think it makes fucking fly. It makes such a difference when you, like you said, when you change that mindset about how you respond to other people. Like, because I think the media has a way of doing this. Do you know what I mean? What people will read, you know, online or in the papers and this and that, it creates resentment for different, you know, people from different backgrounds, you know, or different religions and things like that. You know, like the whole the terrorism and things like that, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? That obviously things do happen, but you know, but there's a lot of resentment from certain people to like Muslims and things like that for just because somebody was creating at one point done something where obviously like terror attack was Muslim, but they're forgetting that there's fucking how many billions of people, probably there's like 1 billion people who've got Muslim. Do you know what I mean? You can't put everybody under the same banner, but I think that there is that kind of the media does put that across to into some people, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? They sell stories by driving fear and driving hatred and things like that, and I think that's I think having your approach on it is much better, because it can, if you give hate to somebody, they're going to give it back. You know, as a collective. I
remember when I was coaching, so I was coaching these guys for about 3 or 4 months. I never was armed when I was coaching them because I felt a weapon was a barrier of communication. So I was always unarmed coaching, which is against policy, to be fair. I thought that was better for my approach and my instruction, so I chose to be unarmed, which is a risk, but also I felt that bonding and connecting with them was more important than being armed at that time, because that was essentially my survival technique. And I remember something happened on a different base, and my boss basically pulled me up and said, you need to carry a weapon over there. And Joe, it made me feel something I never felt for a long time. I knew it was going to impact my relationship with them, and I went over with a weapon, and these guys, right, they're not educated, but they're very intelligent emotionally. They can read you like a book. They said to me straight away, pointed my weapon, they were like, why are you armed? I was thinking straight away, my heart just sunk. I was like, they think something's up now. I was like, look, this is not me, this is my, I was like tapping my shoulder, I said, no, it's my boss. He's told me to bring the weapon. I just gave him the weapon, I gave him the pistol, I said, you can have it. You're no threat to me. I just took the pistol off my holster, I gave it to him. And he was like, oh, it discharged the situation completely. And I was thinking, I don't want to reflect on my stuff. I was thinking, oh, I was so in tune with them as a coach, and just as a not a friend, but as they were working side by side with us. So I knew what to do intuitively. I thought, oh, if I give them the weapon, and do you know what I mean? I'm giving them control of my safety.
That's interesting, like that is actually, because like you said, it's the way that they picked up on that straight away. They obviously knew about the weapon. It's like, it creates a barrier straight away. Even if you've got a relationship with them, it can, you know, potentially they're going to be going away like, you know, they obviously don't trust us, you know, and then it puts them onto the back foot. I know you've got to take precautions, but there does come a time where you just got to trust people, and like you said, you know, trust your intuition about people and about situations as well.
I love that feeling of like, this is where I think my strength comes from, is understanding people and situations and understanding what energy I feel. As I wouldn't have done that if I felt a threat from him, because I was so present at that point. What I felt on operations, you're always present, because you need to be aware of everything that's going on. You're doing a job which is dangerous, and you're not worrying essentially about mediocre stuff that I would worry about in this environment. You're always focused, and you're always on your best. You play your best card basically all the time. You need to be. So when I was bringing 100% of myself to every situation, which so I was getting obviously the 100% results back, because I was investing all my energy into people. And they were giving me 100% back. There was nothing like, I wouldn't turn up half-ass and I weren't getting half-ass results.
I suppose you can't do that in the military, especially when you're in Afghanistan. You've got to turn up, haven't you? Turn up. well, we kind of talked about this earlier on when we were messaging before coming here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
About ownership. So I know you said you've read Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, and you talked about the time in the military. You said it kind of naturally adapted to the concept of taking ownership of a situation, and I suppose like that's what you said today about 100% being invested, in the situations that you're in and turning up 100%. That in itself is taking ownership, isn't it? Of your life and of situations. How do you feel that do you think the concept of ownership is something that you like adopted since the military, or do you think it was something like you were consciously doing when you were there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the military will hold you to account on every single level. So if your pocket is undone, your button's undone your pocket, you get disciplined for that.
Okay.
So it's attention to detail to like times 1,000, but that then seeps into all of your life. So like I make sure all my kits are packed, I got everything I need, my ammunition's all counted, my gun is clean, my weapon's oiled, I know the mission, I know what we're trying to achieve, I know all my teammates' roles, I know how I can communicate with people in my team.
Yeah.
If I want external sources, I know how to get them through different communication channels. If I need like air support, or if I need medic, or I just know the plan so intensely that we always get the results that we want. You can't, they say in the military, no plan survives first contact. That means that when you're a plan, you go out and everything breaks loose and you get shot at.
Yeah.
They survive, no plan survives first contact, but what it does survive, the mission survives, so that you always replan. But say we have a life mission to intend to do the best every day, the plan will change all the time to get to that mission. The mission stays the same.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, when I listened to his book, Jocko Willink, it was obviously some of it is like slightly jaded from the truth because he needed to do that, didn't he, to think, but it goes to show, like you said, but there, no matter what the plan is, your mission is obviously like, I don't know, take over the city or take the control of the city from from the insurgents or whatever, but the goals and the plans, they've got to be adaptive, and they've got to be, and it's the same with life as well. You've got to be, we've all got. 2020 is a prime example of this. 2020, people had plans to get married, people had plans to go on holiday, people had plans to, I don't know, set up a business, whatever it is. Have a kid. Everybody had these plans in their mind about what they wanted to do, and then all of a sudden, boom, 2020 comes, and half of that is gone out the window. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I remember I wrote goals with some of the guys from Ideas and Beers back in December, and we all kind of said what we were going to be, held accountable for, and what we were going to do this year. And I looked at it the other day as it happens, and I haven't done any of it. And what's interesting is it's completely changed. The stuff that I'm doing now, because my mindset's changed, my goals have completely changed, and I have accomplished a few of the things that I've set, but a lot of them the things that I've accomplished are in a totally different direction now. Yeah. And I think being open to change and adaptive to change and just going with the natural flow of things is like, it's absolutely key, because you can't always plan ahead. It's if you're always thinking in the future, like that's a breeding ground for anxiety. It's I was saying to somebody about the other day, you can have anxiety about things that you're scared of, which are about to happen and things, but you can also get anxiety just by knowing that you're going on holiday in a couple of months' time and not remaining present in the moments, because you're constantly thinking about what you need to buy for your holiday, or how much of a good time you're gonna have, and your mind is set in at a point in the future which doesn't exist yet.
It's an illusion.
It's an illusion, but and you're, even though it's a positive thing, it's a positive experience that you're a little bit excited for, it can still cause anxiety, because you're anxious about something that's not coming, that isn't there yet. Not all the cases, but it's just, I think, taking a different look at that and just thinking, what, it is what it is. I'm just gonna wait and see what happens. I'd like to do X, Y, and Z, and I'd like to get this house next year, but we're gonna see what happens. You can aim for it, you can work for it, but you can't always dictate what's gonna happen realistically. It's like Viktor Frankl, so it's can't control every situation. All you can do is control how you feel about it, and what lesson you take from it.
Exactly. Yeah. I think thinking forward is like a state of anxiety, and thinking backwards is a state of depression. I've viewed that before. You are right. I think anxiety is a strange one. I think I think a lot of people live in a state of anxiety and managing that anxiety. I just read and reading a book at the moment, Anxiety is a Messenger, and that teaches you to take a different approach to anxiety and think that anxiety is helping you rather than hindering you.
That's good.
So like you interpret your anxiety, and everyone's got a inner voice that they would listen to for guidance, and that anxiety can sometimes be the right guidance. It's maybe you're walking physically in the wrong direction. That anxiety is like, look, you need to check your bearing here and do a compass check, and then but you think that that's anxiety because what you're doing is wrong. Nothing's wrong or right. It's just because you need to have a look at what you're doing potentially a bit closer, and then replan something. And maybe when you listen, sometimes if you listen to anxiety, maybe it'll give you approval that it's not bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, do you know what? I love that, right? Because it's something I've recently did myself. Not so much with anxiety, but like just if I feel out of balance in general. You know, if I'm if things are going wrong, if I feel a bit stressed or I feel a bit like, you know, just a little bit weird. I think people, you know, now and again, if you're in tune with your emotions and stuff like that, you normally start to realise, you know, I feel a little bit like I don't feel right at the minute. It's something you don't feel necessarily anxious, but you just feel a bit like, oh, what's going on?
That's a skill.
Yeah, it's and do you know what? It's like you said, it's when you have those moments when you realise you are anxious or you're depressed or you've got or like you're just generally unaligned and out of balance. It's usually, like you said, a sign from the universe or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that's. You need to change course. You need to, you know, to do something to correct that course and to get back on track. And that's why I think self-reflection is one of the key things. We talked about journaling. So journaling is obviously. Well, I don't know if you want to talk about what your experience with journaling. You did it for about a year flat out.
So I left the military with the diagnosis of PTSD. Not my choice. It's just an accumulation of experiences throughout my time in the military. 2 tours Afghanistan, it's quite pretty intense. You come back, you don't know, you don't really know what you've experienced and how to deal with it. Sometimes you don't even know it's an issue until you really have a lot of time on your own, or you see your behaviours changing very, very, like your behaviours will start going off the Richter, or you start being anxious, depressed, you start doing drugs, like I was doing drugs, drinking, being angry all the time. Do you know when your emotions are way off key? So I basically had to go to rehab, drug rehab. After I came out of the military, I spent probably about 2 years in addiction to drugs, and I really felt the reason I went to rehab is I listened to my anxiety. I thought, this is not my life. I spent so much time feeling successful in the army, and when I came out of the army, I felt like I lost everything. My whole construct of my life just fell apart. But that's just a visual. That's just my mind, isn't it? Thinking, oh my God, my life was like this, now it's like this. But I had to replan, reassess, and then execute a different idea that I would have had. So now I'm not in the military anymore. I have to accept that. I need to now attack the fact that I'm addicted to drugs and depressed, and I felt terrible every day. I just felt depressed every day. So the best way to do that was to get some professional help. If I want to get clean, go to a rehab. If I want to become a boxer, get a boxing coach. If I want to become a runner, get a running coach. It's the same. You need people around you who've got this expertise to then enable you to grow and develop and evolve into someone who you want to be. I didn't want to be a drug addict, and I'm not a drug addict anymore. So essentially, I've achieved that part of my life.
And what point do you like? You know, so when you said you come out of the military, what point did you think? I need to do something about this. Like in terms of the drugs, or in terms of like when you felt depressed. What point did you think, shit, I'm in a really bad place for you? Do you know what I mean? Or this, you know, the drug taking is problematic. What was the realization? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. This is good because a lot of people are crafty with their thinking, right? You self-sabotage everything you do if you're in pain, but your mind will tell you you're not self-sabotaging. It's for the right reasons. You enjoy taking drugs, you enjoy drinking, you enjoy gambling, you enjoy cheating on your partner, you enjoy doing all this stuff which is completely counterproductive or counterintuitive to what you believe in. When I was really getting to the point where I was like, I can't stop doing this. Like I physically couldn't deny it anymore. I couldn't say to myself, oh, I'm doing this because I enjoy it or it's making me feel better. Like I couldn't stop doing it basically. So I come to a point where I was like, oh, I need to stop now, and I couldn't physically do it. I was like hiding all my bank cards, giving all my pay to my mother, and I was like, then go and taking loans out and get them sent to a different bank account. I was like, this is insanity. So like I couldn't get around accepting I was an addict. And as soon as I thought the penny dropped, I thought, this is me now. I'm stuck like this. It's scary then to accept. I looked in the mirror and thought, the game's up. You need to get some help.
So the fear of accepting that was probably more painful than the thought of actually going through the process of the change. And I think that's when you make that shift between that, isn't it? Like that, you know, the actual staying like that, or like obviously what the eventuality would have been, which is getting worse and things like that, is you know, when you outweighs, like you said, going through like rehab or actually speaking to somebody and stuff like that, going through the process of getting through it. I think making that shift is the key, definitely. On radical levels of honesty got me to where I am now. I had to be honest about what I was doing, what I was thinking, how I was feeling, who I needed around me to help me. So I just said, my family basically paid for me to go to a private rehab. So very grateful for them. Like they pretty much saved my life. I didn't have no money, I spent it all on drugs. I didn't really know what to do or how I was going to get out of it. I thought last time that I made a change to improve my life, I left Port Talbot and joined the army. Now I'm back in Port Talbot. I'm having another issue, which is obviously related to the way I felt from leaving the military and all my PTSD and stuff. So I had to leave Port Talbot and go to Liverpool then. I was living in Liverpool for 6 months, and I'd done I completed a 3-month residential rehab called Tom Harrison House, and they're amazing what they do up there. The stuff that the way I changed mentally, I just can't express the power of acceptance and the power of honesty, how much it helped me. And when I got into journaling and when I got into rehab, I thought, right, who am I now? What's going on? I'm not, am I a different type of person now? Because I'm now sober, I'm now clean. I was questioning my character, questioning my personality, my personal reality was different. I didn't know, I was having all these big questions coming up. I was like, right, all I need to do is focus on the next 24 hours and just make sure I look after myself and give myself the respect and love that I haven't been giving myself for years and probably never even knew how to anyway. So then I started looking at on the internet at people like Joe Garber, mate. He's like an addiction coach from Canada. He's like a doctor, a scientist. So all these people, right, who their life's work is to get people in a better space. I started looking into David Goggins, read his book. Dr. Joe Dispenza, read his book. And then Wim Hof. These are early stages of rehab, but I was researching these people, thinking I need a bit of this. I need this in my life to improve my life, because I thought they've got something I haven't got. I want to copy these people and mirror their behaviour, so I feel and I achieve something they have got. They're all on to something.
They're all in it.
They are. You know, Joe Rogan was a big influence for me because he introduced me to David Goggins. You know, when David Goggins went on the podcast, I think that was the first time I came across him. You know, David Goggins, massive influence on me in terms of the stuff that I've done since and my mindset. What was the other one? So Wim Hof. Wim Hof is great. Really, I love that kind of shit. Obviously the sea dips, isn't it? You know, he's onto something. And I don't know. Did you see the maybe you tagged me in it, the BBC thing the other day about cold water swimmers?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah. So obviously that's you know, they've discovered now pretty much this doctor's discovered that cold water swimmers. You know, for the people listening, I don't know if you've come across it, but cold water swimmers they produce a different type of protein. I think it is that's actually not regenerative. It reduces your chances of progression to dementia. It slows the progression to dementia by at least a couple of years or something like that in some of these people. And that's what it's associated with. So I know they're trying to find a drug now that can replicate you know, that particular protein production in people so that they don't need to go into cold water. You know what I mean? Because obviously, for people who are in their, yeah, you know, people in their 50s and 60s and stuff like that, I think it's, I don't know, I do understand why they're going for the drug. Like, you know, I think if you're young and you're healthy, you know, going in cold water is unbelievable for you, you know, for your mindset as well as obviously, you know, your body. And I think they're going to find more different benefits, you know, as you go along, like what Wim Hof has found. But yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see, you know, if they can get that drug, you know, because to slow the, you know, the progression of dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff through that would be incredible.
That's a massive positive, but it also does not shine a light on the actions you can take now to build the proteins up. When you have to get to that age, then you've got the knowledge and the behaviour and the mindset to make these decisions every day to empower your body. Like, this stuff is doing. Me and you going in the sea every day, it's doing things that we can't even see to us.
100%.
So all we can feel now, we feel great. We both been in the sea today. We feel good because we've been in the sea. But our body also is now feeling good because it's starting to regenerate itself. It's getting these proteins inside us, and it's going to benefit us in 40 years' time. I'm happy to make an investment in myself if in 40 years I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Have you seen Dr. Rhonda Patrick on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'll send you that. Right? She's been on it about 5 times, to be honest, and they're about 3 hours long each. But there's like, you know, there's a smaller clip which is about 16 minutes long, which is the benefits of the sauna, and she talks about the benefits. She's unbelievable. She's like an immunologist, and you know, she does a few other things, but. You know, she talks about what the sauna, the effect it has on the body in terms of heat shock proteins and things. But I was reading something the other day, and heat shock proteins can be produced from cold therapy as well. So apparently, I've only read a little section on this. So, you know, anyone who knows more about this listening might give me shit. But you know, from what I understand of it, is that the heat shock proteins that you can produce from heat or from cold therapy as well. Yeah. It binds with other proteins that you've got in your body, and I think it helps with the distribution of those proteins to where they need to go. From that's what I've got my understanding of it. But it's definitely worth having a look. I'll post a link somewhere online as well. Or if people are listening, type in Joe Rogan, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, you know, sauna benefits, because it's amazing. And that's what she talks about as well. Talks about the benefits in, I think it was the Finnish people. So people, they did like a 40-year study or something like that. It was like a long ass study, but they did one on people who would use the sauna on average 4 times a week for about 20 minutes per session. And then, you know, people who just didn't. So, I mean, they're from the same area, same sort of background and things like that. Obviously, you can't. There's a lot of different variables involved in that, but you know, typically the people who were using the sauna 4 times a week, 20 minutes per session, they had a 40% decrease in all causes of mortality in comparison to the people who would doing the sauna every day. So 40% decrease in all causes of mortality. You know, they couldn't. I don't think they're. It's not like a published study. It's just a study that they've run, you know, and they've published those results in whatever journal and, you know, and things like that. But it's not like a right. This is 100% solid evidence that the sauna is unbelievably good for you. It's because obviously there's so many different variables. Yeah. But it was a very interesting concept, and I think a lot of it comes down to. You know, I think the heat shock proteins that you can produce from cold therapy or hot heat therapy, and I think it's something to do with like white blood cells as well.
Yeah, right. In Wim Hof's book, he says basically you're changing your physiological state, which is allowing the body to change its own state at different points. So at different ends of the scale, like hot and cold, the body needs to operate differently at those temperatures. So then when you're doing that, you're putting stressors on the body, so it has to create these proteins and these cells to then enable it to operate at a different functionality and function different, which then allows you to be healthier. Yeah.
He's Wim Hof is just bonkers, you know. I love him, you know, because he's very authentic as well. You know what I mean? Like the way the way he talks and stuff. He's just you know. He's a bonkers guy, but like this, he is on the stuff, and that's what I love. Right, I love stories like that. You know, he was seen as crazy by so many people for so long for the stuff he's done, and then all of a sudden, you know, Harvard started doing research on him and his ability to, like you said, change his physiology through either interaction with cold or primarily through the breath and through his mind. And the stuff that he has done is just incredible. Like for the people listening, I think it's worth checking out the Vice documentary of him. And just looking at his accolades as well, the stuff that he's done. You know, he climbed Everest in shorts. In shorts with no oxygen.
Yeah.
You know, he what did he do? He ran a half marathon. I think he ran a half marathon through a desert, or marathon through a desert, one of the two, but with only like 200 ml of water.
Yeah,
something like that. You know,
he's dry.
you know, he's just, the stuff he's done is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I think it goes to show that we are so much more capable of doing this amazing stuff than we first realised. You know what I mean? It does. We're kind of almost taught by society that, you know, if you've got an issue with your health, go to the doctor. Okay, yeah, that is right. But we look for a magic pill rather than think, you know, give our body the chance to actually think, right, what can my body do in this situation to make things go away. I'm reading a book, How Your Mind Can Heal Your Body by David Hamilton. Yeah. Really interesting book. I'll lend that to you actually if you want after I got it, because it's easy to digest, you know, small sections, but he basically talks about the mind and the mind's effect on various different diseases, as well as, like, you know, the placebo effect, and he talks quite in depth about the placebo effect. It's startling, to be honest, Mike, how much the placebo effect has an effect on the effectiveness of different drugs. Yeah. Like growth hormone. Somebody took a growth hormone. You know, they obviously registered how much they grew from it, whatever, and stuff like that. But they registered the effectiveness. But then they did a study on people who thought they were getting given a growth hormone, but it wasn't. It was just a placebo, and there was no difference. But then if they had given the growth hormone once, and then they give them a placebo thereafterwards, they would actually, I think it was pretty much the exact same rate of, you know, continued growth and effectiveness of the placebo as the person who was actually receiving the growth hormone. Do you know what I mean? Like the rate of difference was only about probably 10% different, or whatever. Like, it's crazy how much effect that the mind has on healing the body, or, you know, having different physiological effects. Like, if you believe that that's what you're receiving and stuff like that.
Have you read anything about Dr. Joe Dispenza?
I've heard of him and I've come across him a couple of times, but I've never really looked into him.
So what you were just saying there. So Dr. Joe Dispenza, he was on a triathlon.
Fun enough, he has that on the front of that book. I was just reading.
Is he on there?
He's done you know, like a quote about the book and stuff. He's on that. Sorry.
He was on a triathlon, and he basically got hit by a vehicle, and he broke the bottom 4 vertebrae in his back. Dr. Joe Dispenza is a chiropractor, so he's like he's an expert on his own spine, basically. So he went away, and he seen the 4 or 5 top surgeons in his country, and they were like, you're not gonna be able to walk again, basically. So he was like, I don't believe that's true. He refused all surgery for his back, and then he laid on his front for months and months and meditated on the fact that he meditated on his back's own reconstruction. Okay. So every day he would meditate and visualize each vertebrae of his back and reconstruct it, like he learned in his chiropractor training. And within about 3 or 4 months, I think he was able to move his lower legs, and then eventually he was able to walk, and then they x-rayed his back, and all his spine was healed without surgery.
Ooh, that's crazy.
And like, if that's not enough evidence to suggest that with the right visualization, right belief, and the right intention, and like the right energy, you can achieve anything really with the body. It's like this is the computer which challenges the construction of the body. I'm not saying that anyone can achieve that. But like, he's got that in-depth knowledge of the spine, and he was able to map basically what he wanted to achieve with his own healing, and he's evidence that the mind is very powerful.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to look into him a lot more. Actually, I love that kind of stuff. See, you do hear about stories like that, though, don't you? You know, where people don't accept that what they're being given, or they're told they've got, or whatever, is, you know, they don't accept it, and they're just like, no, I'm not gonna accept this for what it is. I want to move past it. Like something I had an issue I had a couple of years ago. I think it was when I went vegan. I don't know if it was directly related to that, but I was on a higher fibre diet, so it could have been. But I developed IBS, so I was like, you know, like I pretty much knew that. I self-diagnosed myself, but I did go to the doctors, and he was like, you know, he said, he was like, why have you even come here? He's like, you've just told me what you've got. He was, and I was like, okay, I just wanted clarity on it. But I said, like, you know, what's the next move? And he was like, oh well, you know, you pretty much got that now, so you know, I can give you peppermint tablets which help with this and that or whatever. And I was kind of like, well, I've never had this before. You know, I've had it for a couple of months now, and it's affected me, and I'm like, I don't want to accept the fact that, you know, that's just it, that I've got it for good. So I just started looking into it. I thought, well, okay, what can I do here? You know, I can hang on, let that go past. every time I do it. Yeah. You know, but I didn't want to accept the fact that I had it, and I thought, right, well, what can I look at here? So I got something called Tombiotics by Quest. I think it's the same company. They're Tom Bailu, or whatever his name is. Yeah,
Tom B. Like.
Yeah, Tom B. Impact Theory. Yeah. But I think it's his company, and they build up the microbial count in the stomach, which are essentially a protective bacteria. They're almost like the security guards of your gut, you know. So if you are eating something and, you know, you have an allergic reaction, to my understanding of it, you know, it's, you know, your microbiome, which are going, ooh, hang on, we don't fucking like this, and then they send like messages to the nervous system or whatever, which is what, when you have that kind of allergic reaction. But likewise, you know, it's what can, if you eat something and they don't agree with it, can turn to make your stomach bad and things like that. I think they are bodyguards for your stomach, but we don't have enough healthy like interaction with bacteria now, because you know, all of the food that we've got is not organic, or not, most of it's not organic. So we haven't got like a healthy increase of this bacteria or interaction with bacteria, do you know what I mean? Because the food we've got is generally lower in it, from my understanding. Again, I'm not fucking clued up on this too much, but you know, it's interesting because essentially what I think what had happened is that, because I changed my diet quite drastically from, you know, going and eating meat and all this different stuff, and then all of a sudden I'm eating purely, you know, plant-based stuff, for the most part I was. My body, it was a big change. So I was having issues, like anytime I'd have beer, like I wouldn't be able to drink this, you know, back when I had it, because my stomach was just bloated up and it was horrific. Like, you know, I couldn't go for a night out. I'd have to just go home after a couple of hours because my stomach would be thing. But anyway, I got these Tombiotics. They increased the microbiome count. I did it for 2 or 3 months, and the severity of the symptoms was going down. But then I switched then after that to digestive enzymes, and they essentially help with the distribution of whatever you're consuming to different parts of your body, from my understanding. And I've had no issues since. Nothing. You know, it's very, very rare that I'll have an issue with my stomach now, just based on doing that, you know. And I'll take probiotics quite often as well. It's just, you know, and I think that is something that a doctor had said to me, like, oh yeah, once you've got it. Where I was like, no, I'm not happy with that. I don't accept it. And I've got through that now, and my lease of life is so much better. I can actually go out and have a couple of pints and things, and I haven't got to worry, you know, about my stomach. So
what you've just done basically is highlighted a growth mindset. Like me and you have got growth mindsets, because we take from a situation what the information we're given, then we empower ourselves by thinking, okay, if I speak to 1,000 people with IBS, maybe they've got different tactics here, which I can use to help myself overcome or come to some sort of solution with this. Exactly what happened to me when I was like, okay, so now I'm an addict, am I? Okay, I'm going to find all the information that's out there, because we can just look on our phones now and look at probably a million different web pages a day on how to empower yourself with a diagnosis or anything.
Even if it's a story as well, isn't it?
Or an experience.
An experience.
How do I conquer this, or how do I get through this experience? Is there anyone who's been feeling like this and now is feeling like this? Exactly why people watch and listen to these conversations, to get some relativity with something we say, and maybe that can help them in their life. And that's why your podcast caught my attention initially, because I was like, okay, this guy's sharing and having conversations which can help people, and I think that's really important. Day to day is people need to connect, or just saturate themselves basically with the people that resonate with them the most. Find people who you are interested in, who empower you and have got good interest and positive information. Just and just become fans of them and just like and support them basically. And read their books and listen to their conversations and just whatever they do in their life which is working for them, it can also work for you. And if you enjoy you doing what they're doing, like we enjoy jumping in the sea, and it makes us feel better, and it's obviously got the health benefits attached to it. So
that's a lot of people don't understand that either. I don't think a lot of people don't get the whole sea dipping thing, but obviously like when you've done it, like you said, it's you understand the benefits of it and you can go, actually fuck yeah, you know, this is really, really good. You see the value in it.
100%. I'm trying to think when I first went in there. I'm trying to think why I even went in the sea. So the cold showers, I've been doing it for 2 years. And exposing myself to cold, and so that it's just a progression. It's my mate, one of my mates, Jack Sudale, he was like, "Come up, do you want to come up the res, Mag and res?" And I was like, "Oh, it's a different ball game jumping in cold, in reservoirs and in the sea." It's a completely different feeling when you're out in nature and exposed to the elements. You can still get the benefits from a cold shower, but what's better than going out with a friend or with friends and jumping in cold water together, because it like brings it's like a unity sort of vibe, innit? It brings you together, and you're both conquering some sort of unwillingness to do that task. You're like, you could easily be influenced there to be like, oh, should we just not do this today? So when you feel like that, and then someone's like, no, actually, we're going in. You're like, oh, okay then. Then you go in, come out, and you're like, oh, I'm glad now I didn't cave.
It is. You're overcoming that little obstacle, and the obstacle is your mind and how and your predominant thought beforehand, which is like, oh, this is going to be cold, this is going to be hard, this is going to be, I'm going to get sandy, I'm going to get whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? You get like it's that once you overcome it, like you said, when you're with somebody else as well. You're more likely to have, like a really good conversation with this person. You're not going to be talking about like the football when you're in, when you're in the fucking cold water. You're going to be, you might not be talking at all, or if you are, you'll be talking to try and talk yourselves out of the cold. But when you get out, you probably have, a really good conversation about just life and things like that. I think you do, you're a lot more in tune with your natural, your primitive being essentially, and or like in an ape, you're a lot closer to that. I think when you're going out in the natural elements, like I think going running in nature, do you know what I mean? You're running in nature versus running around the streets is so much difference, isn't it? You feel a lot better for it. You feel a lot calmer. I think I have like a better run when I've done it. It's just something about being in the natural elements. It does change your mindset.
Society sort of taken away a lot of our basic human qualities, which are like hunting, navigating, being out in the elements all the time. We become comfortable, and the comfort essentially will eventually kill you off, because the body needs to be challenged and inspired and stressed in order for it to grow. Like we are meant to be tactical and intellectual. We were meant to be challenged all the time. We're not like this. Society is just a construct basically, but how we mapped out to live is very different, isn't it? That's why the benefits are so powerful when we do these things which involve the elements of the world, essentially, like the fresh air, water, and you challenge yourself. When you're challenging yourself, funny enough, it feels good.
There was something I was reading as well. It was an article, so it was they did studies in Japan. I don't know if I sent you the articles. This about forest bathing, they call it, right? So they took people, out to like forests for a couple of days or whatever, and they basically they measured their blood levels. They took blood samples beforehand, during, and afterwards and stuff. And they had like lower blood pressure and all this different stuff. Like there was good few metrics that showed essentially they were much healthier. They were less likely to have any kind of heart problems and things like that. But just based on having that sort of interaction with nature on a regular basis. But one of the other things I found really interesting is like they talked about awe, so sense of awe. So when you look up at like a really big tree, or you look out at the ocean, or especially when it's stormy, and you're seeing, that is like, if you jump in that water now, it's going to kill you, or potentially going to kill you. And you get this sense of awe after a couple of minutes of looking at it.
Yeah.
What they said is after about 90 seconds of looking up at a big tree or something like that, you get this sense of awe. You're more likely then, if you've done that, you're more likely to go off and help somebody, and just like whether it's somebody who's homeless, you go and buy them food and a coffee or something. You're more likely to do that than somebody who's stood there looking up at a really big building for the same amount of time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I just think it's interesting that they're two magnificent structures or whatever by all accounts, but the way our brains are wired are to if it's natural, it's just more aligned with who we are. Do you know what I mean, in terms of
positive calibration, isn't it?
Yeah,
so
we're not supposed to be
in
in cities and fucking
natural. You're
recalibrating
your energy. Is that right? So you recalibrate your energy to align with what we have made of from this earth, and we find the natural elements inspiring and or inducing.
Yeah, I want to be buried under a tree. That's what I've said. I'm like, look, fuck the casket off, just put me under a tree. Do you know what I mean? I'll be happy. Yeah, but one of the things, talking about energy, but there actually, meditation. So you're talking about, we were on about journaling, you did journaling. But you said you did meditation like flat out twice a day for a year, wasn't it?
Yeah, for an hour either side of the day. Yeah.
How did you find that was like obviously how have you found meditation in general?
Very, very powerful. So my first experience with meditation, I couldn't sit still when I first got into rehab, and we had mindfulness lessons and meditation practices. I was just like, I can't do this. Why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. Why am I sitting still? And naturally my mind is in the physical, like I need to be I need to be doing something all the time. It's just counterintuitive. You sit down with yourself. I didn't want to look at myself. When you're meditating, you have to be with your thoughts, feelings. You have to face yourself in the mirror. You're looking in the mirror, but you just can't see yourself. You can feel and think everything you want. And I didn't want to feel and see what I'd been avoiding. So initially it was very painful and very difficult, and I was trying to discredit meditation as if to say, nah, it doesn't work for me, and I barely even touch the sides with it. So that's my defence coming up, because my emotions didn't want to rise. I was like, no, cut it off, don't do it, Al. Do you know what I mean? It's not worth it, doesn't work. People will happily say something doesn't work when they don't understand it.
Do you know, a lot of people, I've had that from a lot of people that they don't get it, and I have wondered that, like, how much have you tried it? Because I used to say like, I don't really find it that good, but like, it was only when I started getting into it a bit more, I had one or two experiences where I was like, fuck, I went really like deep into that then, like it was like I was somewhere else, do you know what I mean? You kind of come back and you're a bit like, oof, you haven't fallen asleep, but you're a bit like dissociated for a couple of seconds until you kind of come back to reality. And I think that's when you get into a really deep meditative state, and that's where you're delving into your subconscious almost, and you to start kind of not so much righting wrongs, but you start to make sense of things in a different way, I'd imagine.
Yeah. So I there's an app called Headspace. I'd really encourage everyone to get involved with that. That's where I started my journey, apart from being taught physically how to meditate. And because even though you're sitting still, you still need guidance, because it's such an intimate practice. It's not just about ignoring thoughts, or it's just about highlighting. It's about noticing. Meditation is noticing how you feel and how you think, but not ignoring it. Just like noticing from a third point, like from a third person perspective. And that's the power, of not being involved in the way you feel and think. You can just notice, I'm thinking this, it's just a thought, and then let it go. But the moment you become that thought, then you start creating an emotion, and then it becomes an experience. But when you step back in meditation and think, so you're looking at a show reel of things you think and feel, and it's just a show reel. You just sat in your chair, witnessing. You're a witness to life. You're a witness to your thoughts and feelings, and you need to stay the witness to not become the aggressor or the defender or the
person experiencing it, really, isn't it? Yeah.
You can choose your experiences then. Like I even now throughout the day I get triggered by different things, but I know when I get triggered, and I can question the depth of the trigger. Is this something that I'm insecure about? Is this something that I'm scared of? Is this something I'm worried about? Is it just me? Not like I need to know why I'm feeling emotionally pulled by something that someone says, or if I witness something, I could be like, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Then I question myself then, because it's me. No one's creating that. That person's not creating that. It's me. I'm in charge of that. So what I'm witnessing is provoking something in me. It's like a reaction within inside me. So like say now someone's doing something really ridiculous here and it's triggering us. That's something we need to look at, because they just being themselves or something. It's not about them.
Yeah,
it's not about them.
Do you know Dr. Phil? Have you seen Dr. Phil, the guy in America?
The Good Talk Show guy.
Yeah, talk show guy.
Yeah.
So it was his. There's a really interesting thing that he was on Joe Rogan actually, and I watched that podcast. And at one point he says that his father was like a behavioural psychologist or something like that anyway, and he is as well, I think. But you know what he said he always remembers his father said to him at one point, you know, he was looking at, they were in a cafe or whatever, and there was somebody the other side of the cafe. He said, there's something about that person I don't like in myself, right? And he you know, he was like, you know, whether he knew the person or not, he said there's something about in that person I don't like about myself. And I find that really interesting, because since that I've understood things at a deeper level, and I've almost, when I've seen somebody who's got a conflict, like I haven't got a conflict with anybody, you know, but when I've seen somebody who's got a conflict with someone else, you know, even if it's like jealousy, or if it's you know, or if it's an actual, like, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on, they're arguing and they, you know, throwing things back at one another and stuff, I look at that objectively and I go, you two are actually very similar. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, you can see that there are similarities, and a lot of it is like, you know, our subconscious is something that we don't like within ourselves that we are projecting outwards, you know, and that can cause, like I said, an argument or distress, jealousy, bitterness, whatever it is. And I think it's whenever you feel that emotion towards somebody, it's good to, you know, again, it comes into like a growth mindset, but it's like taking a step back and thinking, what's the lesson for me to learn? What do I need to do in this situation to become better? You know, I've done this recently myself. You know, I was externalizing stuff. You know, I wasn't taking full ownership. Obviously, like, you know, I was thinking back to it, I'm like, you need to take fucking ownership of this. Do you know what I mean? You know, I wasn't taking full ownership, and I was externalizing something, and I thought, well, no, hang on, it's not this person. No, you know, they've got a part to play, but it's how you're receiving it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, how I respond in this situation, and how I feel about it dictates the outcome. Exactly, you know, to a certain extent. So. Yeah, no, that's meditation. I think, going back to that, I think it definitely gives you more of an insight, or it gives you the chance to look at things in a different light, I think, and to reflect on what's going on in your life and think, do you know what, like these situations are, they're unfavourable sometimes, like the stuff with my job recently, right? Like, I'll mention that just because it's recent, obviously. I fucking think, you know, last day yesterday, you know, for my job. You know, I didn't like it for a long time to a certain degree what I was doing, but taking a step back and reflecting on that, you know, I could have gone one or two ways. I could have either gone, right, look, you know, there's aspects of this job that you know, you don't like, but you could probably get over that, you know, in the name of having an income. Or you could go, well, actually, I don't want to be putting up with these situations and just sweep it under the rug, so I'm going to actually move on and do something else. Like, you can go two ways, but I think meditation and slowing things down in general, which is the principle behind meditation, isn't it? That helped me to have that realization. I just want to highlight that it's very courageous what you've done, and it's like a massive personal and external form of leadership, because not enough people will like validate their life to a point where they're like, I need to change my career. It's not a career anymore, really. It's just your life mission. Is that the right statement? It's like, you can't call it a career, because you can make anything out of it now. It's like more of a lifestyle and a life mission, isn't it? Yeah, do you know, I've said this to people as well, you know, like my father, for example, you know, they understand to a certain degree, but they're not, like, and they are supportive, but at the same time they're concerned for my well-being. You know, they know what I'm like, right? They know that most of the stuff they say to me I'm probably not going to listen to, do you know what I mean? I'm just going to go off and do my own thing anyway. But that's only because I did give in to him before years ago. I mean, when I was like starting stuff up, I was starting my first business, second business, I let things get into my head about it. Whereas now I'm like, look, I'm not going to listen. You know, I'll take a certain advice if I think certain advice is going to be beneficial. But there comes a time when you need to disregard advice from people you love and just go, I've got a good feeling about this.
Yeah.
This feels like the right choice, and even if it's going to be a fucking stupid choice or whatever, like obviously doing what I've done, quitting a 30k a year job, you know, purely to chase my own ambitions, you know, and I haven't got like stacks of cash behind me to keep me going. You know, it is a big risk in that sense, but I just know that whether it's 6 weeks from now, 6 months from now, or 6 years from now, I'm gonna. I've done 666, but fucking out there, everyone knows me shit. But you know, you know, no matter how long in the future it is or how short in the future it is, I know that I'm gonna reflect back on it and I'm gonna go, fuck yeah, this is, you know, it's the best decision I've ever made. And I think it's like with what you did with your job as well. You told me about this before, didn't you? You quit your job before to help yourself. Really, didn't you?
It's hard to steal. Yeah. So I had to basically say to my employer that I was abusing drugs, and I could not basically be I couldn't show up for them as an employee.
And that's such a fucking myself. It's such a bold move to do, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because a lot of people would have gone, actually, no, I can't fucking quit this job. You know, this is such a great job.
Good money in it. It's good money. I was on good money, and I knew if I give that honesty to them, they'd never employ me again because it's an engineering. It's like a specialist. Refractory area, they make steel. It's a dangerous job. I mean, some guys in there risking their life every day, and they're not going to hire me again. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to work there again because I'm not a steel maker. It's not my expertise. I was doing IT for 10 years when I went to steel making. I was like, oh, this is out of my depth, and the addiction just was a universe's way of telling me I needed to change my whole life, basically.
But do you know what? That's such a bold move to do. You know, in terms of, like you said, having that realization for one, you know, that you just that the job's not like working for you. You just gotta you've got to give it up and move on because you've needed to look at look inwards at yourself and look after yourself. So many people, you know, including myself, I've done it, you know, before as well with different roles. You almost, what's the expression? You gotta cut off the tail to kill the poison. There's an expression like that, isn't it? I don't know. Somebody might know. Tell us in the comments. But you know, you've almost cut off your arm to kill the poison.
It's like a gangrene thing, is it? Like,
yeah, almost something like that. Like, you know, if it was an expression out there, it's essentially sometimes you've just got to fucking cut your arm off, you know, to kill yourself. Yeah, to save yourself. You know what I mean? You're losing a little part of you, but you know, like the scar tissue that comes around that is going to be stronger. You know, you might have less functionality because you've just cut your fucking arm off, but you know, you're growing from it mentally, you're learning from it, and I think that, you know, as an analogy to life, then you've just got to figure out if something's not serving you, if it's driving you in the direction you don't want to be going in, or if it's driving you back. You've got to really reflect on that and think, you know what, I need to make a move. And a lot of people get, you know, it's difficult if you've got a house. It's difficult if you've got like a lot of outgoings and things. You know, the same as me. I've got outgoings the same as everyone else. You know, so it's not going to be without a struggle. But I know it's the right decision to make, and I think sometimes you just got to fucking run with it.
Yeah, definitely. Suffering's a true test.
Oh yeah.
I was on benefits for like 12 months, I think. I had no job. My day consisted of recovery, essentially, like self just looking after myself because I had been neglecting myself for so long. I couldn't step or even think about stepping into anything of a professional sort of level until I really felt like I'd sort my head out. But I'll come on to how I did actually spend some time as an actor.
Yeah.
After,
of course, yeah.
So I was when I was in rehab. So what I've learned, what I learned about myself is I was so busy, I didn't pay attention to people's conversations, or I didn't pay attention to guidance, essentially. So I read this book called The Surrender Experiment, and what the Surrender Experiment teaches you is if you show up all the time and you put 100% into each situation, people will give you signposts to become your next best self. Okay. So I dropped all my ego, dropped all my worries, and I was in rehab. I was just living day to day, just doing what I could in each situation. I wasn't worrying about after rehab, I wasn't worrying about what job I was going to do, trying to just be present. And one of the staff said, I think you've got like something about you could potentially be like on stage, or you could be on film or TV or do something like that. I was like, that's actually really interesting. I've never ever considered that. And for me to like take that on board and actually think, that's a potential, because I've got no career now, I've got no options on the table, I was thinking, why not?
Yeah.
I'm getting clean now. Why can't I then visualize myself as an actor? Who's only I'm denying that reality.
Yeah, we're all
denying our realities, mate.
Yeah, we're the only person who stands between us and our fucking vision. Do you know what I mean? It is literally we're the only person usually.
Everyone sits there and they're like, I couldn't do that, and then they were like, why is that then? Give me a list now. Write a list now. All the reasons why you can't do this job, or be a writer, or be an artist, or sing it, or make a track, or anything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see the list and why they can't do it. I don't believe myself. I don't love myself. I'm not enough. There's probably them 3 top ones.
Yeah.
I just don't know what I'm doing.
And also, like, creative arts are not really. They weren't offered, especially with our generation. They weren't offered as much. I think it's going that direction a bit more now because, all of a sudden, like English, maths, science, although they are good things to have, they are becoming less and less relevant because you've got technology which is taking over in those areas. Whereas I think with creative arts, it's more of a humanistic approach. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know, a robot is probably, you could train a robot to paint something, but it's never really going to put the emotion into a painting that what a human can. And I think that is why the creative arts are a lot more, important now. Do you know what I mean? You can teach a robot to dance, but is it going to be, I don't know. I don't know much about dancing, to be honest. It's a shit one to give it to. It's a common one, but it's like, yeah, creative arts though they were never really pushed that much. I don't think our age, and like we said with their drama now, it was always seen as like there are actors out there, but drama's just something you do in school, and then you get some people go to drama school after school and all that kind of stuff, but like not. It was never really pushed upon to a lot of the people. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes if their parents would make them, their kids go to drama school, but it's not something you usually consciously choose to do when you're that age. I don't think. I think mostly it's those parents pushing them into it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the fact that you've gone into it then, at like a later age or whatever is amazing. Just trying it out. So what did you do when you became an actor? Like what kind of like. Was it plays, films?
So stage, live theatre. So it's called immersive theatre. So
okay, yeah.
So the process for me stepping into acting. So I had that conversation with one of the rehab staff, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later, I was on a minibus coming back from the Lake District. We went to the lakes to do some sort of. Just to immerse ourselves in nature basically as part of the programme.
Right.
It's very beneficial, like very grateful to just be in that programme and be in the Lake District. Just spending time in nature, it's great recovery. One of the same staff member then said to me from the front of the minibus, I've just had a text. They're looking for someone who's got military experience to be a lead actor in this play. I was thinking, hang on a minute there. I was thinking, what's the deets? Like, send me the details. She's like, you need to send a CV to this woman, this director, Rihanna White. I'm really good friends, she's an amazing person. So I emailed her, I said, I don't have an acting CV. I just basically wrote like a little personal statement. I said, look, I'm not an actor, I haven't got no acting experience. This is my current situation. This is my experience with Afghan nationals, with different nationalities, with the military. I've read through your mission statement, what you're trying to achieve for your play. I think I'd be a good fit. So Rihanna emailed me back saying, oh my god, that's the most powerful thing I've ever read. Like, just a bit of honesty. Sometimes being vulnerable is the right thing to do. Obviously it doesn't apply really if you're going for professional jobs, corporate level jobs. You're not going to be like writing statements like that. They're just going to back you off, do you know what I mean? But like in this situation, I felt, which is another powerful thing, just to listen to how you feel sometimes when you're in the right state of being. I thought just writing something personal would be great for the arts, because the arts are about honesty and vulnerability. They're about expressing your real you, and do you know what I mean? Being a thespian, it's all about being expressive and getting in touch with yourself, and like all about the body. And she said she loved my email, and they invite me. Rihanna invited me for food actually in Manchester. Like the week I finished rehab, I was in Manchester on my own. I remember stepping off the train in Manchester from Liverpool, and everyone was rushing around, and I was like, don't just be meditating for 3 months solid. I was like, why is everyone rushing around for? My head was completely zen. I was like, are these people rushing to get home and watch TV? I was like questioning why they're so busy. Do you know, because I was so chill. I was like, what's going on, bro? Do you know what I felt like saying to people, what's the reason? What are you rushing about for? And then they like
That's
probably they've got no genuine reason. They're like, well, I rush all the time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you know what? That's interesting actually, because like that's a lot of people's way of life, and again, mine for a long time. You know what I mean, rushing around everywhere. But no, that's interesting. How you noticed that, like consciously, you thought, fuck, I'm much more chilled and zen, and I, not rushing around anywhere. Everyone trying to do stuff.
Have you seen like I've seen on TV sometimes when they speed up everyone on the scene and you've got one person standing there. I genuinely felt like that. I was like, everyone's rushing around me and I was like, wow, I'm on my own there. I've always felt sometimes I'm on my own in my thinking, but now I was like, I literally feel I'm on a different wavelength, like, because I was so chill. I was like, I'm not rushing.
It's good to be that person. It really is. Like, I think I've always felt like that person, definitely, as well. Like, I think like me and you are on the same wavelength. We maybe think in a different way a lot of the time, or we question stuff more. I think that's what it is. We question stuff a bit more, and sometimes you can feel a little bit alien. Do you know what I mean, in terms of the thoughts that you have, and the stuff that you do. Like, for example, like my mates, they think I'm crazy right now for quitting my job. A lot of people think I'm crazy for doing it, but then a lot of people are encouraging about it as well.
Definitely.
But for me, I know that, like I said, it's the right decision, and I think you got your own mind, and I think if something feels right, you just got to go for it. Like you said with the acting, it just felt right. It's materialised, and obviously that I'm guessing that gave you a massive confidence boost as well.
Unbelievable. So I thought these people believe in me, and it made, even though I believed in myself enough to start my own journey, to when someone gives you that little affirmation, and it gives you that internal confidence, and you're like, oh, I needed that. For them to acknowledge my truth and then acknowledge my personality, for them to want to put me in a position where I was telling the plays about like the effect of war on people, and it touches on the arms trade. It's like a big sort of flavour of it is about how much the arms trade has an impact in the world, and how like the government's involved and different people involved. But my influence on it was from a personal experience, so like talking about Afghanistan and how it affected my PTSD. So I was like in front of audiences talking about situations I've experienced and the way I felt, and how music, because I've been DJing for years, how music influenced my recovery. And I know you touched on the music you listen to. I feel like music changes my state of emotion, my emotional state. It can really prepare me for different situations, and I found that when I was going through a lot of my when I was really in trauma, I was DJing a lot. Obviously that goes with the drugs and drink and stuff like that, but I really found peace when I was doing my DJing, even though maybe I didn't know it at the time. I felt like the DJ was a way of helping other people's emotions. So when you're DJing, you're essentially controlling people's feelings, and you can have such a profound impact on people and the way they feel by what music you choose. So like that's expressing your creativity and like your truth on people, how you feel on that. Like in the day I could think, I'm going to play this set and it's going to make people feel like this, and then I wanted to be the conductor basically of that emotional little dance. I could...
Do you know what I love that, because that's always something I thought about music as well, like Above and Beyond, Above and Beyond. I mean, it's amazing. And what I love about them as well is they've done like yoga playlists, meditation playlists, like flow state playlists, but then they've also got, like proper, like trance, like the stuff you'd go to an event and feel, but then they've got the vocal trance, which hits you in a different way. And that's, I love that. That's why I like you said, I said earlier about I think it was the psy trance I mentioned. Like, when I want to get amped up and I want to get into like a productive state, or productive state in terms of like cleaning the house or doing physical stuff or like running and things like that, I want to get into it. Psytrance gets me into it like that. Trance is like I can just listen to that all day, every day, and I'm just generally in a good energy, from listening to it, I'd say. And like you said, if you want to chill out, you just listen to something, like indie music or whatever it is. You can just kind of lower your vibration, get into that more of like a delta state, the brain state, I think, and stuff, and you're a little bit more calm and relaxed. It's interesting, and I found if there was something online about this, how you can kind of program your brain in at these different frequencies, and each frequency then is corresponding with different like
emotional state. So like with your, if you go into alpha brain state, you're, you know, high energy, hyperactive, and whatever. Gamma is the same as well, or gamma is like high energy, hyperactive and stuff. Alpha is like, you know, productive and so on and so forth. Then delta is a bit more like creative state, a little bit more chilled out. It's like a lower vibration. And then you got I think theta then, which is associated with deep sleep waves and stuff. So it's very low.
Is it, you know?
It's very, very low vibration. And it's quite interesting because, like, you know, the TV, for example, that, you know, we know that a TV, it responds at like, I don't know, whatever it is, 30 gigahertz or something like that. It responds at a certain frequency, which basically after a certain amount of time, your brain corresponds with said frequency, and the one that the TV emits at is associated with a depressive state of mind. You know, and I think, you know, the easiest way to think about it is if you're sitting there watching TV, right? You know, we like, let's just say that you haven't drank, right? Because if you're hungover, that has an impact as well. But let's say you're on a Saturday night, you're just sitting at home, you know, and you're having a night in, you're going to watch TV, right? You start, you know, watching TV like this, whatever, you know, you're eating food and whatever, but then all of a sudden, by the end of the night, you know, you, for the people listening, you're not going to see this, but, you know, you kind of slouch in your chair, you're like this, and you fall asleep, and, you know, you feel like shit sometimes as well. You know, you might have been eating like crappy food, but is that you know, are you eating crappy food just because you fancy it, or are you actually eating crappy food because you feel depressed, because
your emotions?
Because you're you know, sitting there watching TV again in a depressive state of mind. You're thinking, oh, let's order a takeaway and whatever, and you're thinking about ordering more shitty food, and it's just lowering that vibration. And I just found that really interesting, because there's like quite a few things you can find online about that, and it's just goes to show, really, you know, how the interaction with music and technology we have can really influence how we feel day to day. And you know, if you're higher in that vibration, if you're thinking, you know what, I'm not going to watch TV, I'm going to do something else instead, or I'm going to whatever, you know, you're instantly allowing yourself to kind of higher that vibration, which is potentially giving you more opportunities for positive things, positive opportunities and interactions, as well as feeling happier in general.
I think when I was in the Lake District, I just want to say for everyone, like, meditation took me about 10 weeks, I think, for the penny to really drop. And I felt like I was battling with it for a long time, but like I was in the Lake District for this time where the penny mega dropped for me. It was in the Lake District, so I was in a completely different environment, and I wasn't like sat in my little room in Liverpool, like in the rehab house. So I was like in nature, meditating. I had classical music on in my headset, so I know like you can meditate in silence, but I used to listen to empowering music, or I used to listen to like self-talk or self-empowerment Spotify playlists. So I like listened to classical music, and I just had this really intense feeling of like being present, and like I opened my eyes, and like everything looked vibrant. It was like the most like beautiful experience I've ever had, and I just burst out crying. I was just crying my eyes out for about 5 minutes. I was like, what is this feeling? I was like, felt different to how I've ever felt before, and it was like almost as if I was like being grateful. I was like so grateful, like I'd feel this way through like just sitting and meditating. I was like it just made me really emotional. I was like so thankful. I was like, I've rescued myself. I'm doing the right thing here. I've never felt this at peace before, like after meditation. And I was like, I wanted it more then. I was like, I need to do this more. And I just asked the encouragement then to like do it twice a day. And then I started getting creative and thinking, oh, I can do this. But then I can plan things in my mind. I can like sit in the morning and plan my day in my mind. So I can like set an intention for the day, and then all you're doing then is like you're not creating an expectation for the day, because expectations can fail, but then that creates suffering. What you're doing is just create an intention. I can have a good day today, and you think about the day itself. Think, oh, okay, I'm going to go and do this. That's going to be good. I'm going to bring energy to that. I'm going to invest energy in this. But if that anything changes, then your intention is still good, and you just respond to that, rather than being like, oh my god, I didn't expect this. What's going on here? I didn't expect. Expectation is probably one of the biggest enemies for me, because I'm like expect things to happen in a certain way, but that's based on past conditioning. So I used to sit and meditate, and I used to have like the auditorium of my mind. I used to be there as the like remapping stuff and moving things around and thinking, oh, I'm happy with this, I need to look at this, I need to have a little look at this, and then I'd write about it and think, oh, in my meditation this come up, this come up, this come up. And I wrote the life story actually off the back of David Goggins' book about my whole life So I wrote like as a child all the stuff I remembered, all the stuff I didn't like, all the stuff I felt was traumatic as a child. Loads of stuff about me being a child, loads of stuff about me being an adult, being a teenager, stuff that really I felt needed addressing, but no one knew about it except me. So it's not something like, potentially not something that had happened to me, but maybe I felt really embarrassed about something, or maybe I felt like ashamed of something as a child, or I don't know, like, do you know, a moment of shame, which no one else induces that. It's just self-induced shame.
Yeah.
And
So
you're like,
how
oh my
you
God,
feel it
that was
inside
so
you.
shaming. But if you spoke to that person as an adult, and they would be like, I didn't think it was shaming. That's just your construct of the memory. And I thought, I need to look at these memories again and understand that I had no idea what was going on at that time. I was only young, and I had no idea really of other people's perception of me. If I could go back and question these people, like, you'd be like, I didn't even notice, mate, to be honest. I didn't even have an idea. It's just you just create all that yourself.
We create our own suffering in our mind, don't we? We do. We create all of that just by, like you said, but there, you know, like, people look at it externally and they think, do you know what, I know that there's nothing wrong with it, you know, with that, but we're always our own worst enemy, and I think just getting over that can create a lot of peace, you know, within yourself. You know, it's always a conflict, but I think you can really start to create peace in yourself when you accept that, when you just go, you know, I'm like, these are my thoughts, that's all they are, and until I do something and act upon it, you know, that's all they are. They're not, you know, like, what you think somebody is going to think about you is completely fucking irrelevant until they actually,
it's not true, is it?
until they verbalise it,
until
you know,
they say, oh look,
until they say,
true, mate. There's no truth to it. What I understood is, like, I made up loads of stories in my memories about things that I didn't even know about. But I'm not denying any trauma that I've been through, because that's trauma. Trauma can be experienced by anything. People can be traumatized by anything. So if it's trauma, you can't really change the narrative there. You need to address and accept that you've been traumatized, and then try and forgive and accept the situation, and then learn from it potentially, or even just try and send it love, the memory, send love to it, and send acceptance. But what I would say is, like, if you're in situations in your mind where you're thinking about the past and you are believing that you knew everything about the situation, you're wrong. You need to understand that you just only know what you were aware of at the time. Like, you don't know what people are thinking. Like, it comes back to, in a situation, like, I remember this meeting I had before in work, and I said something and I thought about it for ages, and I was like, I embarrassed myself there, I shouldn't have said that. But realistically, all I did was stand up for one department, and someone could have witnessed that as a sign of courage and leadership.
But you've seen it as something different.
Because like, the majority of people didn't take well to it. I don't even know that. I mean, I perceived that they didn't take well to it. There wasn't much of a response. But after it, I thought, why did I say that? Why did I do that? And I was thinking, right, all I did was believe in myself enough to say, I don't believe in this idea, it's wrong. We are impacting X, Y, and Z. And then after it, with storytelling, thinking, I shouldn't say that. They obviously think I'm this. Do you know what I mean? I was like, storytelling, and we love a story. We love to validate and justify why we felt ashamed at that point, rather than just to think, I feel ashamed.
The other thing I was going to ask you about as well, like, just that last point as well, was your theory on, because we've talked about this already, psychedelics and their impact on mental health in general, and like what they're, you know, because there's a lot of studies out there at the minute which are showing that, you know, for example, like MDMA is you know, coupled with therapy, is really, really good for PTSD. You know, what else is it, like LSD, years and years ago, there was a study on LSD that they kind of reconnected neural pathways in people who were schizophrenic. So essentially during microdosed LSD and therapy, they were able to get through to them a lot more. So I mean, there's quite a lot of stuff out there about psychedelics. Obviously, I've had an experience with DMT myself as well, to know that, you know, how powerful it is in terms of moving you forward and helping you, you know, mold a different perception of the world. But, you know, what's your what research, what kind of, you know, stance do you take on that at the moment?
I'm a full believer in psychedelics for healing purposes and self-discovery, I think. There's a lot of things you can gain from psychedelics, and in a controlled environment, I think it's beneficial to explore that. And if you listen to someone talk about psychedelics and you get a negative, sort of a negative trigger, then I'd ask yourself why you feel that, because I never understood psychedelics, and the research I've done on them has only been positive, really, about people's recovery, people's healing, people's journeys, and there's like it's a natural substance. So like DMT is natural, mushrooms are natural. I don't see why we would not be an advocate of Mother Earth's own medicine, and clearly it gets results. So why are we pharmaceutically trying to heal people when we can invest in nature again? It comes back to nature. It's got its ways of coming into the human body and giving us a sense of healing, and also giving us a sense of well-being. And I think what it does for different, obviously I think it gives you what you need, I think.
Yeah.
And what I've read about psychedelics, and I've done psychedelics before, but never in a healing sense, which is something I would love to do. I'd love to sit down and do psychedelics in a controlled environment and see what comes up, because that's what it's about. It's about what comes up for you and how you then address that part of you, I think. A lot of people hide parts of themselves, and they have big shadows. Like, people will probably lie to themselves every day. They lie to their friends. They will do things they don't want to do. They'll feel the way they don't want to feel consistently, but then they want to challenge themselves to move out of that state. But then if someone who's in that mindset had a psychedelic trip, it then gives them that clarity and that massive positive shock, or that enlightenment for that period of time, to then think, why have I been living in such a depressive state when I can feel like this? But obviously you're not going to take mushrooms to feel that all the time. It's just it gives them it gives them some sort of light on how they can feel different. It gives people a feeling of being different, and then it gives people encouragement to then do work to make themselves feel better. Do you mean?
What my perception on it is as well is like, very much what you said there, and it kind of it helps you to delve into your subconscious mind, you know, and unwittingly, you know what I mean, to a certain extent. You know, we were able to do it through like meditative practices and things like that, I think, with, you know, delving into the subconscious. But with psychedelics, you know, my experience with DMT, you know, DMT is like pretty much the most powerful one on the planet. You know, and it was the one from the frog as well. So it was the 5-MeO DMT. That one is like, it's not so visual, but it's very slow and emotive and very, very deep. So, you know, the experience you get from it, you're figuring things out for about 2-3 weeks afterwards, or sometimes even longer. You know, you make sense of things in ways you never have before. And a lot of the kind of the healing that took place for me from that was, like I said, at a subconscious level, where I just realised that a lot of the reason why I had like this kind of unsettlement within myself and I wasn't completely happy, it was down to the fact that I wasn't being fully grateful and completely grateful for the situation that I'm in currently, you know, in terms of like the job that I've got, in terms of the, you know, the progression I've made in my life. I wasn't completely, you know, grateful for that. And as soon as I thought, well, actually, that's what's missing. It's just being accepting where you are now. You'd have killed to be a couple of years ago, and also. And again, it's just, even if it's just mental growth, even if you haven't got anything physical to show for it, it doesn't matter. If you've grown mentally and how you perceive things and the intellect you've got, you know, is much superior to what it was years prior, that in itself is, you know, is worthwhile. And that's what I took from it, realistically, you know, from DMT. That was one of the key things. There's a few other things as well, but you know, it isn't something it should not be illegal. It really shouldn't. It's like it is, like I said, it's powerful, but it's the growth you can take from it is unbelievable, and especially if you've got things that need correcting as well. You know, if you've got like an addictive personality and things, like some people go to you know, do an ayahuasca ceremony, which is essentially just the DMT mixed with another plant, so 2 plants. You know, they'll go and do an ayahuasca ceremony in like the Amazon or Peru or whatever it is, and they come back and they won't touch alcohol again, they won't touch a drug again and things. They'll quit smoking, you know, no kind of cold turkey. They're just, you know, gone from it. And it's because they have, not at every instance, but in a lot of cases, and there's a lot of things online about it, they just have this really profound wake up experience. Like, I've got a friend who she did an ayahuasca ceremony, but she went in, it was either DMT or ayahuasca. She did one of the two, but she went in there with the intention of being more sociable and spending less time on her phone. Can't get it, like her boyfriend, right? He's like, you can't get a message back from her. He said, you know, he lives with her, do you know what I mean? But he was like, you've got to ring her, you know, a couple of times before you get hold of her.
Okay.
You know, like she won't, like if you message her, she'll take 4 or 5 days to reply and stuff like that. She's just, you know, she's just off her phone, do you know what I mean? She's in amongst the world and she's just doing her own stuff. She's being more productive, and it was kind of like, she went in with that intention, and then almost like it kind of ingrained it within her subconscious mind. You know, the experience did. So there's a lot of interesting stuff around that.
What they say is what you bring to the table is what you take away from the table. So if you turn up with a plan and intention to like create something in your mind, then psychedelics will give you the tools basically to work on yourself in that experience. And I think what it gives you, so it draws you back from yourself, so you can momentarily look at your pain and think, that's actually painful. I need to heal this part of myself. I need to understand that this hurts me, or like it gives you that ability to forgive yourself, but it gives you the clarity to do it from a different point of view for that time period or that time frame.
Like you said, you know, it's almost like you said with the meditation earlier. You're taking that kind of step back and you're looking at it as the observer more than anything else.
The witness, like.
And also, I found that with DMT, it kind of humbled me in the sense that, you know, I realised that I'm just kind of, or everything is, you know, is energy. You know, our bodies are just physical matter that we're in for a certain amount of time. But you know, the energy never goes away. The energy is just transmuted into something else. You know, and I never really believe. I'm not religious, and I never really believed in the concept of God and whatever else. It's like, you know, I thought, maybe there's something higher than ourselves. I always felt like I was destined for more, you know, and there was something out there that I wasn't aware, you know, privy to. But until doing DMT, that kind of woke me up and I realised I was like, there is no way that you know that there's, you know, what we see and what we hear, everything that falls within our senses is everything that's in life, that's in existence. There just isn't, you know, because you have that experience with DMT and you think, you know, irregardless of, you know, it's for example, it's a natural substance, but the effect that it has on you is just undeniable. You know, it really is. It's like you can't think, okay, this is just because I've taken a substance.
Just in itself, isn't it?
And also, do you know what's interesting? I took a lot from that, and I was learning about it. But a couple of weeks afterwards, right, I just went into a rabbit hole basically on the internet. I was reading this guy. He's a business coach out in New York, and Scott Jeffrey, his name is Scott Jeffrey, CEOsage.com. Right, so anyone have a little look at his blogs. It's amazing the stuff he puts up. But there was nobody else talking about this stuff online, right? And he started talking about basically the pineal gland, so our third eye, you know, what a lot of people call it. How to, when you take DMT, you know, you open your third eye, but you know, it's forced open pretty much by, you know, the DMT, which is allowing you to have this like access to higher consciousness. But he was saying that there's different ways you can do this without the use of psychedelics, which I found was interesting. Blue lights, so like artificial light, can actually hinder it because it affects the circadian rhythm, which
so like phones and TV, then basically.
Phones, TV, white screens. Lights, blue lights, computer screen, all that kind of stuff.
So everything we use it every day.
No, it is. It does. It can affect your circadian rhythms, your sleep-wake cycle, but it also affects your like spiritual receptor. And in addition to that as well, the food we eat and the water we have and stuff like that, like, you know, if it's got chlorine in it and all that kind of stuff, the stuff that basically when you pour it from a tap, the shit that's in the water there, the stuff that's in toothpaste, you know, essentially it can form crystals or phosphate crystals around the pineal gland, which inhibits both your ability to sleep well, you know, so it can affect you in terms of sleeping in older age and things, and, you know, therein, you know, you're probably going to fall ill from different things just because you're not getting, you know, restorative sleep. But in addition, it can inhibit your spiritual receptor, you know, with the third eye. What was interesting though, when I got to the last part of the blog, right, it just blew my fucking mind because he starts talking about all the connotations in all of the different religions, civilizations, like the ancient Mayans with they got singular eyes in there, symbolism, Egyptians, you know, the Freemasons, Hinduism, they talk about it, it's in the Bible, they talk about a singular eyes, all the way throughout, you know, these different religious contexts, they talk about it. And it just made it just started to make sense to me, and like the last part about it then was how to activate it otherwise. So he said sun gazing, so the first and last hour of the day, there's no, like, we've been told if you stare at the sun for too long you go blind or it fucks your eye up and everything, right? Yeah, to a certain extent that's true, but the first and last hour of the day that's not true. You know, you can stare at the sun for nearly a full hour and the UV index is generally about 0, so it doesn't affect your eye, apparently from what I've been studying. But that can actually induce like a psychedelic state, which allows you to have this like higher level of consciousness. Third eye meditation is another one. Qui-Gon, which is like a form of Tai Chi, and binaural tones or isochronic tones.
Oh yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, done it with the different frequencies in your mind.
Yeah.
Different frequencies emitted on either ear.
Yeah.
And that produces a harmonic frequency in your brain. Then.
So I went into a flat out DMT like state off the back of listening to those.
The binaurals.
The binaural ones or whatever. So I literally, it was crazy because what happened was the back of my neck crystallized the same as it did when doing DMT, and that is a sign that you've opened the pineal gland because. It wasn't just, and again, it sounds fucking crazy, right? But it was like, it was undeniable because I did it. Literally, they did laying in bed, listening to the binaural tones, and all of a sudden the back of my neck crystallized, and all of a sudden I just had this unbelievable rush of energy going right the way throughout my body. My eyes were closed, it was pitch black in the room. I put my hands in front of my face, and if I'd opened my eyes, like I wouldn't have been able to see them because of the dark anyway. I had my eyes closed, and all I seen was this blue pulsating energy right the way throughout my body. It was a very surreal experience, but I was nearly crying after it because I was like, this is unbelievable. Like everything we are taught is not everything we're taught is bullshit, but a lot of what we're taught is bullshit. We don't get taught about this in school. We don't get taught about how to access whatever this is, and I found that was really fucking interesting because it's not, all of a sudden it's not just a drug you're taking, it's not just a psychedelic you're taking, which is accessing this. We're able to do this ourselves. Yeah. So it's opened up a whole different world for me. But I think
when you have that physical experience through meditation or through a practice, it gives you an affirmation that it's real. It's actually giving you massive benefit. There's a lot, like I used to be like, oh, where's the results for this? It's not doing anything. Nothing's happening for me. And then when I had an experience through the practice, I was like, okay, this is real. I'm a believer now. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are conditioned to need to feel and see something to then really commit into it. But then, do you know what I mean? It's like 100%. It's like tongue in cheek, isn't it? Like you read 100 people's versions of the same event, but then why isn't that enough for you to be like, I need some of this? Why do you then need to feel the experience for yourself? Can you just take that account of this is why we do this? There's 100, this is millions of people doing it. Oh yeah, but I haven't felt it myself, so
I think sometimes the difficulty that you've got to go, the difficulty you've got to go through to achieve it, whether it's a C dip, for example, or if it's something that, you might get laughed at, like crystal healing was something that I, not like laughed at, but I was never really receptive to it, didn't really think too much about it. And then I had it and I was like, fuck, this is crazy, this is weird,
With them, has it?
I've had it with Jess Begum, and I've had it with, she was the first person who done it for me, and I found that was like, again, I felt amazing after it. Like, the next day I felt like I had about 50% less energy, but it was like, I thought, fuck, that's interesting. She said she's like, like what she was doing was removing negative energy and stuff. But generally, I noticed it when I was doing Titan, which is like a fitness, strength and conditioning like class. Usually I'm like hard as fuck, we're working hard as fuck. But I felt like I had about 40-50% less than what I generally do. I was like, I was gassed after like 20 minutes. And I was like, what the fuck, this never happens? Why is this? I'd had enough sleep and, I'd eaten enough and things. And I thought, fuck, it's interesting actually, because if she's saying what she's done here is actually remove negative energy, I've got less energy to transmute into positive energy. Do you know what I mean? And I thought that's quite an interesting thing. But then when I had it done with Emma again, it was, I had to actually open my eyes because I was going into a really deep state, and I was a little bit like conscious, a bit anxious about it. That's just the ego trying to protect you, because my ego knows now pretty much when I've done DMT, you can get into this really deep state, and it's trying to protect me, it's trying to pull me back, like thinking, oh fuck, you're gonna have a heart attack or whatever. It just pulls you back a little bit. But essentially, that's where the best growth. If you can work through it, you go into this really deep, like meditative state or whatever, and you can. That's where you're going to get, a really a lot of growth. A lot of growth. But it's just, it's quite difficult, I think, to get to that point.
When you step into the unfamiliar, sometimes you respond very in fear, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, this is like...
The unfamiliar is what it is,
Yeah,
see, right?
it's the unfamiliar, isn't it?
When I was doing the stuff with the binaural tones and I had that experience, I was looking on stuff online, I was like, this is crazy because nobody's fucking talking about this. The next day I actually really fucked myself up. I didn't sleep for 3 days after it, right? Because I listened and I spoke to somebody who is a what do you call it, like she does stuff with like neurologist, I think she is, right? She's a neurologist, so she does stuff with the brain, and she knows about all the frequencies, all that kind of shit. Because I explained it to her, and I said, look, my interpretation is that I've listened to something here which was going from an alpha to a gamma to a delta to a theta state, right? Like someone on YouTube has just put like all these fucking different ones together, not really thinking about its effect on the body. And she said, she's like, you're not supposed to do that. She said, that's probably someone just thrown it together. You're not supposed to be going in between brainwave states like that, because your brain's going to go, what the fuck, I don't know what to do with it. Because I said, it felt like I'd done is I'd listened to a theta state, or I'd listened to one which had gone into a theta state, which is associated with deep sleep. And I said it was almost like I opened my eyes during deep sleep, and I felt really like dissociated. And I couldn't sleep for 3 days, and I was really dissociated. I was in a really fucking weird place. And she was like, yeah, that's pretty much what you've done. She's like, you just pretty much pre-programmed your brain into a different brainwave state. So when you're trying to go to sleep then a normal time and whatever, your brain's like active, because it's like, well, no, I'm in this different state now. I'm supposed to be awake. And it fucked me up. Like all my mates were saying to me, they're like, mate, what the fuck have you done? Do you know what I mean? Because my head was shot. But that's the danger, because I was looking online, and what scared me more than anything is there was nobody else online that knew about this kind of stuff. I emailed a couple of like sleep doctor people from up in London and things, and I wasn't getting anything back. You know what I mean? I wasn't getting any emails back, and I'm like, fuck. And in the end, I got in touch with the guy whose blog I was reading, the business coach guy from New York. He was like, yeah, I don't really know what the fuck you've done there, to be honest. He said, he said, in terms of closing your third eye, he was like, what he generally does is puts his hand on his forehead like that for a couple of seconds, and then that's when he'll come out of, that sort of state. But he was like, he didn't really understand it either. But when I spoke to somebody who obviously deals with brainwaves, she understood it. But it's very interesting stuff, do you know what I mean? Because this is not common knowledge, but there's a lot of shit involved there, and I really want to explore it a lot more, to be honest.
So I had a physical experience through meditation. I was working with a veterans charity in Manchester, like going and receiving therapy and counselling with them, and one of the guys it took me to like an inner child meditation, and I had to like visualize a spirit animal. So he was like, I was in meditation, and he was like guiding me, and he was like, okay, so think of yourself as you're just a little boy now. I was like, okay. He was like, oh, think of an animal with you. So I said, oh, okay, a lion. And he's like, okay, the lion is looking at you, looking eye to eye, like, what do you feel? So I said, oh, I feel confident looking at the lion. He's okay, put your hand on the back of the lion, stroke his fur, how big is he? I was like, oh, he's massive. And I was like, okay, how do you feel? I said, oh, I feel comfortable actually with this lion. And he's like, okay, feel the heart. Put your hand on the lion's chest and feel the lion's heart beating.
I was wondering where you were reaching to then.
Me and the lion, like, I was like, be back now, 2 seconds. And he's like, try and sync your heart with the lion's heart. And then after these instructions were like really unfamiliar, so I was like, try and understand how to visualize that and feel that at the same time. And I was like, oh, I feel like very harmonious with the lion. He said, okay, so what I want you to do now is like, you feel like you and the lion are like one with each other. I was like, yeah, I feel really comfortable with the lion. He's like, okay, take the lion and run through your childhood with the lion with you. So I was like, okay. So I was like running through different memories that I had. I was like, literally, I was in my house as a kid with a lion. The lion was knocking stuff over. And like, in my living room, how I remember it before. The lion was knocking the table over, and I was like, it was hilarious in my mind. I was like thinking, how is my visualization so good? Because I'd probably been in meditation for about 40 minutes at this point. Like, get me into the right level of frequency to create these visualizations. Because at first, it's not easy to visualize really like detailed things.
No, I can agree with that.
So it took me a while to get into it, and I was like thinking, oh my god, this is really, really interesting. I'm like, what I want to visualize, I'm creating like moment after moment. So I was like running around like, I was thinking of things actually which impacted me as a child, and I was like taking the lion with me to like to like change the scenery basically. And once he was like, okay, have you finished now? Is there anything you want to address as a child with a lion? I said, no, I feel like I've like run around everywhere really. I can think of. And at this point, I hadn't come back to Port Talbot. I was like still doing therapy and different things in Liverpool, because I stayed up there for like an extra 4 months. So I'd done like 3 months residential, and I stayed up there voluntarily for 4 months doing extra work and just working on myself and staying low key. And he's like, okay, take the lion now and run into the future with the lion. And as soon as I visualised myself in Port Talbot with the lion, I had this massive, like I can't. So I was just sat like this, and I felt like something went boom inside me, and it started vibrating, and I was like thinking, can he see me shaking?
Yeah,
I was shaking, like I was like shaking, physically shaking, and then like it was like a wave come over me, and then it went, and then another one. It was like 3 pulses basically. I've never felt anything like it in my life, and I was like, is this actually happening, or is it me? Do you know what I mean? And like I was like in a state of shock, because I was like, wait a minute, I'm meditating and now I'm vibrating physically. There's a link between what I'm doing with this visualization and how my body is reacting and responding to what I'm doing in my mind.
That's crazy.
So after the meditation, I was like, did you see me shaking? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh my god, I was actually shaking. He was like, yeah. I was like, I was vibrating. It was like as if my frequency just changed, or I started resonating, or I healed something in that moment. I think maybe what it was is like the fear of coming back to Port Talbot, because that's where my pain was. That's where like the playground is for me. Like, you know what I mean, the negative playground. That's where all my pain was, like with the drug use. So I was like, oh, what happens if I go back and I just relapse or something? Do you know what I mean? But then when I was with the lion in Port Talbot, I felt so much strength. I think I like had an evolution in my mind. It was like boom, just started shaking. And I was like, from that moment, I understood how much you can physically materialize through meditation. I realized how much you can achieve by sitting there and thinking and visualizing about. Obviously, that's a professional guided meditation. If you tap into these people and find out who these people are and go and visit these professionals, you can achieve things I never thought I'd be able to achieve, like acting or having a physical feeling through meditation.
That is amazing, man. Because that's like the most probably the most crazy account that I've heard about like meditative, like, because you hear about people getting into like a deep state of meditation and like the heat, but like actually physically vibrating and things from it. Yeah, that's absolutely bonkers. I've never gone that far with myself. Do you know what I mean? I've probably done like 10-15 minutes max and stuff like that. I think I need to actually, I need to do more of it.
I looked on Google, so I thought, oh, this is either, do you know, straight away you doubt yourself. You doubt every experience you have, even though you had it. So it's like, whether I believe it or not is irrelevant. It happened to me. I was vibrating. I felt it. So rather than taking that and thinking it happened, I was like trying to discredit it straight away. I was like going away researching, thinking, oh, this didn't happen. Trying to like, because I didn't understand it. Basically.
I know you mean. You just accepted it for what it is.
I was like, what is happening to me? And then there's other accounts on the internet and of people saying, yeah, I've been in meditation. I felt like I was like, my frequency was changing. I was vibrating. I was like, okay, so it's basically your body is resonating at a different frequency. But because the meditation was so powerful, my body physically changed, and I felt that impact of it. But I've never felt nothing like that since. But maybe I healed something, or something changed for me in that moment.
I'm gonna try this over the weekend now. I'm gonna try and get like a vibratory fucking meditation going.
I think it's called like a spirit animal meditation or something.
Okay, I'll have a little look at that. Okay, we'll finish that up then. So have you got anything, just last point, have you got anything like you would like to say to anybody listening now, like, if you were speaking to yourself 10 years ago, like what would you say to to people now listening? Do you know what I mean? But a little gem of advice, something that comes to you.
I think be honest with yourself about how you feel and what you want. Back yourself all the time. Take responsibility for what you're doing right now and who you want to be today and tomorrow, because all we really have is today to create tomorrow. Stop thinking about really long term. Stop overwhelming yourself. Just hone in what you're doing right now and create the best intentions for yourself, and things will naturally happen for you. And stay positive.
Love it. And if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's your social media?
So I'm on Facebook, because I don't really use Facebook as much as Instagram, so I'm on Instagram as Alexander Eley with a 1 at the end.
Cool, awesome. And just want to thank our sponsors as well. So thank you to Noah's Yard for the beautiful venue we're in right now, and thank you to We Are Digital Marketing as well. So the We Are Digital Marketing create websites, and they work with the customer to actually make sure that you're getting the solution you want. So if whether it's an e-commerce store, whether it's actually just just a general website you want setting up, they'll work with you to make sure that everything that you need is included within the package, and it's they don't charge over the earth for it as well. So We Are Digital Marketing, and their URL is wearedigital.marketing. All right, cheers guys, thank you very much.